Hey everyone! Before we dive in, I have a question for you. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to understand the unspoken truths about male-female dynamics. Now, let me ask you another question. Have you ever noticed that some men seem to attract women effortlessly? They don't chase, beg, or try to impress constantly, yet women are drawn to them like moths to a flame. What if I told you one of the biggest secrets behind this isn't about looks, money, or status, but something far more subtle and powerful? Something called semen retention. That's right. Retaining your sexual energy doesn't just have health benefits, it can intensify female attraction in ways you might never have imagined. Today, I'm going to break down exactly why this happens, what science and ancient wisdom say, and how you can harness it to transform your relationships with women. My personal journey. When I first heard about semen retention, I was skeptical. I had come across countless content creators online claiming that retaining your seed could make women naturally attracted to you, improve your confidence, and even boost your overall energy. At first, I dismissed it as another overhyped self-help theory, something that sounded too good to be true. I thought these creators were using bold claims simply to gain attention, attract viewers, and sell their programs. I wasn't convinced that a practice as simple as refraining from sexual release could have any tangible impact on female attraction or personal magnetism. In my mind, attraction had always been about looks, charm, money, or status. I figured the idea of semen retention increasing female attention was just an internet myth, or a placebo effect that people wanted to believe in. Despite my doubts, I decided to experiment. I had nothing to lose by trying it for myself, and I wanted to see whether the claims held any truth. I committed to practicing semen retention consistently, determined to retain my seed and observe the changes over an extended period. At first, it was challenging. Abstaining from sexual release was not easy, especially in a world where sexual stimulation is so readily available. There were moments of frustration, temptation, and doubt, but I remained consistent, motivated by curiosity and a desire to explore how it could impact my life. After several months, I began to notice subtle changes in myself and in how women responded to me. Initially, it was almost imperceptible. A glance held a little longer, a smile from someone who didn't usually pay attention, small interactions that carried a sense of intrigue. But over time, the changes became more noticeable and undeniable. Women started engaging with me in ways that had never happened before. Conversations seemed to flow more easily, interactions felt more natural, and I no longer felt the constant pressure to impress or perform. Where before I had to show off, put on a facade, or chase attention to get even minimal recognition, suddenly I realized that my presence alone commanded it. The shift wasn't just about getting more attention. It was about the quality of attention I was receiving. Before semen retention, I often felt that I had to work hard to gain approval or interest from women. I would try to appear attractive, confident, or funny, sometimes exaggerating certain aspects of my personality just to stand out. Even then, the attention I received felt conditional, fleeting, or transactional. But after practicing retention, I noticed that some women began showing interest in me even without knowing me on a deeper level. They weren't drawn to my achievements, my possessions, or my outward attempts at charm. They were drawn to something else entirely, something I could feel but couldn't initially name. It became clear to me that this change was not coincidental. Women seemed to be responding to the energy I was cultivating through retention. I realized that the practice was not just affecting my body, but also my mind, my energy, and my presence in the world. The confidence and assertiveness I gained were natural, effortless, and internally rooted. There was no need to put on a performance, no need to beg for attention, no need to try to manipulate interactions. I simply existed, and my energy began to draw people, especially women, toward me. The more I practiced, the more pronounced the effects became. Casual interactions with women became easier, more engaging, and often more flirtatious without any deliberate effort on my part. I noticed that the dynamic had completely shifted. I no longer had to chase or prove myself. Before retention, gaining female attention had often been difficult, stressful, or awkward, and I had to expend a significant amount of energy to create interest. But now, attraction seemed to happen naturally, almost effortlessly. Women who previously seemed indifferent began to notice me, and those who were already friendly became even more engaged. It was as if the energy I had been storing and cultivating through retention had started radiating outward, affecting the people around me in ways I could clearly perceive. This journey taught me that semen retention is not just a physical practice, but a holistic one. It changes how you carry yourself, how you engage with the world, and how others, particularly women, perceive you. The transformation isn't superficial, it's energetic, psychological, and deeply personal, creating a magnetic presence that naturally attracts attention and interest. Understanding the science behind attraction. Once I started noticing the changes in how women interacted with me during my semen retention journey, I became curious about the underlying reasons. It wasn't just a coincidence that women were responding differently. There had to be an explanation, both scientific and psychological, for the magnetic pull that seemed to emerge naturally. Understanding why semen retention intensifies female attraction requires exploring how it affects the body, mind, and energy of a man. From a biological perspective, one of the key factors lies in hormonal balance. Semen retention has been shown to influence testosterone levels, the primary male hormone linked to dominance, confidence, and sexual drive. Testosterone is not just about physical strength or sexual ability. It also affects your behavior, your posture, your energy, and the way you carry yourself in social situations. Men with higher testosterone levels are often perceived as more confident, assertive, and dominant, and these traits are universally associated with attractiveness. Women, whether consciously or subconsciously, are drawn to men who exhibit these qualities because they signal strength, vitality, and the ability to protect and provide. Another biological element is the increase in semen volume and concentration that occurs when a man practices retention over time. Evolutionarily, humans are wired to recognize fertility cues, even subconsciously. When a man retains semen, he produces a higher volume of seminal fluid, which is an indicator of reproductive health and vitality. Some theories suggest that women can sense these subtle biological signals, even if they are not aware of them on a conscious level. Retention may therefore create a subtle, instinctive attraction because it signals that a man has high reproductive potential, making him a more desirable mate in terms of natural selection. Beyond the physical, semen retention also impacts the mind and energy. By abstaining from sexual release, a man begins to accumulate what many ancient traditions refer to as life force energy. This energy is not visible, but it is felt. It manifests as increased vitality, sharper focus, and a sense of inner strength. Women are incredibly sensitive to energy patterns, and they often respond more to the energy a man radiates than to his appearance or words. A man who has accumulated life force energy through retention projects an aura of vitality and magnetism that women find irresistible. This energy affects how he moves, how he speaks, and how he interacts with the world, creating a presence that draws attention without effort. Psychologically, semen retention fosters discipline, self-control, and emotional resilience. When a man can resist instant gratification and maintain control over his sexual impulses, it signals mental strength and stability. Women are often drawn to men who are composed, focused, and not obsessed with immediate sexual rewards, because this demonstrates maturity, confidence, and moral fortitude. These are qualities that women instinctively seek in a long-term partner. A man who exhibits these traits exudes power and independence, and his self-possession becomes magnetic. Interestingly, the combination of biological, energetic, and psychological effects creates a feedback loop that further amplifies attraction. As a man retains his semen, he gains confidence and vitality, which naturally improves his interactions with women. Positive interactions then reinforce his self-perception, making him even more magnetic. Over time, retention changes not just the way a man feels about himself, but the way he exists in the world. And this shift is profoundly noticeable to women. They respond not to what he says or does, but to the energy he carries and the sense of purpose, power, and vitality that emanates from him. Ancient cultures and spiritual traditions recognize this phenomenon long before modern science attempted to explain it. Practices of celibacy and sexual discipline were not only about morality or spiritual growth, they were also about cultivating personal energy and presence. Religious leaders and monks were aware that the accumulation of sexual energy could intensify magnetism, which is why many of their practices emphasized restraint, meditation, and energy cultivation. They understood intuitively that sexual energy, when harnessed and transformed, could enhance a man's aura and natural attractiveness to others, particularly women. The scientific, psychological, and energetic aspects of semen retention all converge to explain why women are drawn to men who practice it. It is not a single factor, but a combination of biology, energy, and mental discipline that creates a magnetic presence. Women respond to the signals of vitality, confidence, and composure that retention naturally cultivates, making attraction an almost automatic consequence of the practice. Real-life behavioral changes. I remember instances where casual encounters, like small conversations at the grocery store or quick interactions at social events, began to carry a different energy. Women would smile longer, make eye contact more frequently, or laugh more freely at my jokes, even jokes that were not particularly extraordinary. The subtle shifts were undeniable. It was almost as if my presence alone had become more compelling, drawing attention without me having to seek it. Where I previously had to chase validation or impress, now I found that women were naturally curious, attentive, and engaged simply because of the energy I was radiating. Another significant change was in the way I experienced confidence and self-assuredness. Before retention, confidence was often a performance, something I felt I had to project rather than genuinely embody. I would overcompensate in conversations, try to dominate discussions, or even brag to gain attention. These behaviors were exhausting and often felt unnatural. Retention, however, changed this entirely. The discipline required to practice semen retention cultivated an inner sense of control and self-possession that couldn't be faked. I began to move through social interactions with ease, without the need to prove anything. My confidence became rooted in reality. It wasn't performative, but authentic. And that authenticity itself became a powerful form of attraction. Women responded to this, not necessarily because of what I said, but because of the energy I carried and the sense of presence I projected. I also noticed a profound change in how women perceived me in terms of sexual energy. Previously, I often felt like I had to actively pursue sexual attention, or even beg for validation in romantic or intimate contexts. Retention changed that dynamic completely. Sexual energy became something that radiated naturally, and I realized that women were subconsciously attracted to it. I no longer felt the need to chase or force interactions. Instead, attraction began to happen organically. Some women who had barely noticed me before suddenly started showing subtle signs of interest, even without having deep knowledge of my personality or intentions. It was a completely new experience, and it revealed to me just how powerful accumulated sexual energy can be in shaping social dynamics. Over time, I also observed that these changes were not limited to attraction in a romantic or sexual sense. Women seemed more drawn to my presence overall. Conversations were more engaging, social interactions felt lighter and more enjoyable, and the quality of attention I received increased. People, in general, responded to the confidence, vitality, and energy that retention fostered. In essence, I became more magnetic, not just in terms of female attention, but in the way I existed socially. My life started to feel more vibrant, interactions became richer, and the subtle shifts in perception were noticeable even to friends and acquaintances. One of the most striking realizations I had during this period was that attraction became effortless. Before retention, I had to carefully orchestrate my interactions, constantly analyze behavior, and think strategically about how to gain attention. After retention, the effort became minimal. Simple gestures, casual humor, or even just being present in a room was enough to elicit interest. Women were drawn to the energy I carried rather than the actions I performed. And this was a profound shift in understanding human attraction. I began to see that the real power of semen retention lies not in superficial charm, manipulation, or showmanship, but in the subtle, energetic shifts that it creates within a man. These real-life behavioral changes confirmed something I had only started to suspect during the early months of retention. Semen retention alters a man's presence in the world. It changes how he carries himself, how he engages with others, and most importantly, how others, especially women, perceive and respond to him. The transformation isn't about appearance or wealth, it's about the energy, confidence, and discipline that retention cultivates naturally. Theories behind female attraction. As I continued to observe the effects of semen retention in my life, I became deeply curious about why it works in terms of female attraction. The changes I experienced weren't just anecdotal. There seemed to be patterns, underlying principles, and mechanisms that could explain why women are drawn to men who retain their sexual energy. Over time, I researched, reflected, and experimented, and several theories emerged that attempt to make sense of this phenomenon. One of the most widely discussed explanations is the concept of a magnetic aura. Many retainers claim that semen retention generates a unique, almost invisible energy that radiates outward from a man. This energy is not something you can see, touch, or measure with instruments, but women appear to sense it intuitively. It's subtle, yet it affects how people respond to you. When a man has this energy, he carries himself differently. His posture, tone of voice, and even the way he moves through a room exude confidence, vitality, and dominance. Women, consciously or subconsciously, pick up on this energy and feel drawn toward it. It's not about what you say or what you do, but about the presence you embody. Another compelling explanation comes from evolutionary biology. Retaining semen increases sperm volume and quality, which some argue may trigger subconscious fertility signals that women are naturally attuned to. Evolution has hardwired humans to seek out partners who can provide the best chances of producing healthy offspring. While women may not consciously recognize this biological signal, they are subconsciously drawn to men whose bodies suggest high reproductive potential. Semen retention, therefore, could function as an evolutionary cue, signaling vitality, sexual health, and reproductive fitness. Women are responding to these cues on a deep, instinctive level, which may explain why attraction intensifies without any deliberate effort on the man's part. Semen retention also appears to enhance masculine energy in a broader sense, beyond the purely biological. Retainers often report feeling more confident, assertive, and decisive, qualities that naturally attract women. Masculine energy is not about aggression or dominance over others. It's about self-assuredness, independence, and the ability to navigate life with purpose. Women are drawn to men who display this energy because it suggests stability, strength, and capability. Retention helps cultivate this energy by conserving a man's vital life force, which is then expressed outwardly in demeanor, communication, and behavior. A more psychological perspective suggests that women are attracted to men who display discipline and self-control. Sexual restraint demonstrates an ability to delay gratification and manage impulses, which signals mental and emotional maturity. Women, even on a subconscious level, can sense when a man is governed by self-discipline rather than being enslaved by his desires. This sense of control is inherently attractive because it conveys reliability, stability, and a capacity for long-term commitment or focus. Men who retain semen are often perceived as more grounded, composed, and capable of managing challenges, which naturally increases their appeal. There is also the spiritual or energetic theory, which suggests that semen retention allows a man to accumulate what is often referred to as life force energy. This is the same energy that gives a person vitality, charisma, and magnetism. When a man's life force is strong and concentrated, women sense it and feel naturally drawn to him. It creates an invisible gravitational pull, a sense of excitement and intrigue that is difficult to ignore. Women may not be aware of why they feel attracted, but the effect is real. They respond to the energy rather than superficial traits like looks, clothing, or status. Interestingly, these theories are not mutually exclusive. They often overlap and complement one another. The magnetic aura, biological signals, enhanced masculine energy, and disciplined presence all interact to create a powerful form of attraction. Semen retention, therefore, is not just about sexual abstinence. It's about transforming energy, psychology, and behavior in a way that women respond to naturally. Historical and cultural evidence also supports these ideas. Ancient traditions recognize that celibacy or sexual discipline could enhance a man's presence and influence. Monks, priests, and spiritual leaders often practiced sexual restraint because they understood that accumulated sexual energy could amplify their personal magnetism. They knew that women, and even people in general, would be naturally drawn to a man who exuded concentrated life force, vitality, and discipline. This understanding was less about morality and more about the practical effects of energy cultivation on social and interpersonal dynamics. In my own experience, all these theories converged to explain the changes I witnessed. Women were not only noticing me more, they were drawn to the energy, confidence, and presence that I had developed. My interactions became easier, more engaging, and more effortless, demonstrating that semen retention operates on multiple levels: biological, psychological, and energetic, to enhance female attraction. Practical tips for harnessing semen retention. After observing the profound changes in female attraction and my own energy during my retention journey, I realized that practicing semen retention effectively requires more than just avoiding sexual release. It is a holistic process that involves discipline, awareness, and intentional lifestyle choices. The way you approach retention determines how much energy you accumulate and how naturally it translates into confidence, magnetism, and attraction. First, it's essential to start gradually and build consistency. Retention is not about forcing yourself into extreme abstinence from day one. For most men, it takes time to adjust physically, mentally, and emotionally. By starting with manageable periods, you allow your body and mind to adapt without creating frustration or unnecessary stress. Gradually increasing the duration strengthens your willpower and helps you understand your own impulses, making the practice more sustainable. Over time, these small, consistent steps compound into a profound internal shift that can enhance your presence and the way women perceive you. Another crucial aspect is understanding that semen retention is not solely about sexual energy. It's about redirecting that energy into personal growth and development. The energy you conserve is a form of life force that can be invested into building confidence, improving your physical health, learning new skills, or pursuing passions. When this energy is consciously channeled, it enhances every aspect of your being. Women sense this natural vitality and are drawn to the man who radiates energy and purpose. Your magnetism grows not from superficial charm, but from the authenticity of your life force being fully expressed. In addition, cultivating mental and emotional discipline plays a pivotal role. Semen retention naturally encourages self-control, but pairing it with practices like meditation, visualization, or mindfulness can amplify the benefits. Meditation helps you connect with your energy, remain grounded in social interactions, and project calm confidence. Visualization allows you to imagine yourself moving through life with charisma, strength, and magnetism, which trains both your mind and your energy to align with these traits. Emotional discipline ensures that you are not swayed by external validation or fleeting desires, allowing your energy to remain concentrated and powerful. Physical health and lifestyle choices also support retention. Regular exercise, proper nutrition, and adequate rest are critical for maintaining high levels of vitality and testosterone, which further enhance your masculine energy. When your body is strong and energized, your presence becomes more compelling, and the subtle cues women respond to, confidence, posture, and aura, are naturally amplified. Retention is not about abstaining from life. It's about living in a way that preserves and enhances your core energy. Attraction is a natural side effect of becoming a higher version of yourself. When your energy, confidence, and presence are fully aligned, women naturally notice and respond, often without you trying or performing. Finally, patience and self-awareness are essential. Semen retention is a journey, not a quick fix. The changes in energy, confidence, and female attention develop gradually, and it requires consistent practice, reflection, and adjustment. By observing how your body, mind, and interactions evolve, you learn to harness your energy more effectively, deepening both personal growth and social magnetism. Through these approaches, semen retention becomes not just a practice of abstinence, but a transformative tool that amplifies your vitality, energy, and presence, creating natural attraction and deeper personal mastery. Final thoughts and mindset shift. As I reflect on my journey with semen retention, it becomes clear that the true power of this practice extends far beyond the surface-level benefits of attracting women. While the increased female attention and magnetism are undeniably noticeable, they are ultimately a byproduct of a much deeper transformation that occurs within a man. Semen retention reshapes your energy, consciousness, and presence, fostering qualities that make you more aligned, focused, and powerful in every aspect of life. Understanding this mindset shift is critical because it determines how you approach retention and how effectively you can harness its benefits. One of the most important insights I gained is that attraction should never be the primary motivation for retention. It is easy to become tempted to measure success by the attention you receive from women, or by the number of interactions that turn flirtatious or sexual. While this may be an exciting and affirming side effect, it is not the true purpose of retention. The real power lies in mastering your own energy, learning to channel your sexual vitality into personal growth, and developing a deep sense of self-mastery. When you approach retention with this mindset, the energy you cultivate becomes more potent, your presence becomes more authentic, and the natural magnetism you exude is far more impactful and lasting. Another key realization is that semen retention cultivates a higher state of consciousness. By conserving your sexual energy, you redirect it toward mental clarity, emotional resilience, and spiritual growth. This accumulated energy transforms the way you think, how you perceive the world, and how you interact with others. It allows you to engage in life with intention rather than compulsion, to act from a place of power rather than neediness. Women, and people in general, respond instinctively to this energy because it signals a man who is grounded, self-aware, and fully alive. Your magnetism is no longer just about external traits or superficial behaviors. It emanates from the core of your being and radiates outward. Semen retention also fosters a profound sense of patience and discipline. The practice challenges you to resist immediate gratification, to delay impulses, and to maintain focus on long-term growth. Over time, this builds an internal strength that is visible to those around you. You begin to carry yourself with quiet confidence, composure, and an unshakable sense of self. These qualities are deeply attractive because they communicate stability, reliability, and an inner mastery that few men possess. Women are drawn not just to your appearance or words, but to the energy that signals a man who is in control of himself, his desires, and his life. Furthermore, semen retention enhances how you experience joy, connection, and life itself. Energy that is conserved and consciously redirected heightens your awareness, amplifies your enthusiasm, and enriches your interactions. You start to notice details, engage more fully in conversations, and exude a vibrancy that others find compelling. Women, in particular, respond to this energy because it creates a sense of presence and aliveness that is rare and captivating. The energy you generate is magnetic, not because it is forced, but because it is authentic, abundant, and fully expressed. Ultimately, the mindset shift that accompanies semen retention is about becoming a higher version of yourself. It is about valuing personal mastery, energy cultivation, and consciousness above external validation. Female attraction is not the goal. It is a natural side effect of the magnetism that comes from living as your most powerful self. When you embrace this perspective, the energy you develop through retention permeates every aspect of your life, from your social interactions to your professional endeavors to your inner spiritual growth. You become a man whose presence is noticed, whose energy is felt, and whose life commands attention naturally without effort.